So, I'm Steve Smith. This is Melanie Romero of the Cactus Center. And Melanie's going to tell us how to do a succulent garden. Take it away.
All right, thank you for coming over. I'm one of the 5 sisters who works at California Cactus Center. My father started collecting plants as a hobby, and then he expanded into a business in 1976. So we've been around for like almost 40 years. So before I actually show you a method how to plant a container garden with succulents, I'm going to show you some of my favorite pieces that I really like to use, and I planted this a few days ago. And one of the ones I really like is called a circle pot. I'm going to show you. So it has something you can hang, and you can also sit down on a table. And so basically this is a very versatile pot that I like using. You can drape succulents, you can add succulents anywhere, and you can put it indoors near a window, or you can put it outdoors, preferably outdoors for most succulents. This one has a hole, so this is what is preferable for most plants, is to have a drainage hole so that it allows water to come out and not sit in the container. This is another one that I made, but this is made out of terracotta. So this is another type of container that I use at the nursery if you want something very plain, but it's very porous, which means needs more water. So this is a cactus garden that I made, and that you would water less than something like this, which is ceramic. And they both have drainage holes, which is the key thing. You need drainage for a lot of these plants. Now this one I made is a glass container, but it doesn't have a hole. But I use this a lot for people who want something a little different, and it's glass with rocks on the bottom and a little bit of pumice if you want more drainage. So this is a succulent container garden, but made out of glass. And then I have this one here. This one is actually a rare plant from South Africa. This is a Haworthia cymbiformis, variegated, but it's in a handmade container. And it has a hole in the bottom, but we don't water this that much. So this is another type of container that we have, a lot of handmade containers, but with the hole in the bottom. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is, before I start planting my garden, is these are Tillandsias. And this is a type of plant that we sell at our nursery, but they're not succulents. They're actually epiphytes, which basically they grow on trees for support, but they get nutrients from the air. So this doesn't need a container. You can just lay it like this, you know, basically like this. Or what I did here was I put a little bit of rocks in the bottom for decoration and set in the container, and then I just mist it you just mist it like this a few times a week, and then that's all you need. So those are some of the plants that I want to show you. So right now I'm going to do is show you how to plant a succulent container garden. So this is a method that you can use at home, and you can use any of your succulents at home. You can use cactus, and I'm going to show you how to plant a container garden using all these variety of succulents. Now this one has a hole on the bottom. And what I do is I put a screen to cover the hole. Okay, and this is our mix, our exclusive mix that we sell at the nursery, and it doesn't have any peat moss. And why it doesn't have peat moss? Peat moss is not good for succulents. It's too acidic, and it's too dry. It also holds too much water. And this one has pumice, perlite. It has fir bark. It has sand. It has mycorrhizal fungi and fertilizer. So you can get this at our nursery. You can't really get this anywhere else because we make our own mix. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here. And what I do is I put about half, not that much. I might need a little bit more, so right there. Okay. So what I do is I picked a nice container that will fit all these plants. It looks like too many plants for one container, but it will fit. So what I started with a tall plant in the back. You can put this in the center, but I'll do like the basic one where you put that in the back. And this plant, and what I do is I try to loosen as much soil, but I'm not breaking a lot of the roots. Even if I do break some of the roots, there's still enough roots for it to survive and to grow in. Okay. And this is a very common plant that you see in stores. It's called a kalanchoe, and they come in a variety of colors. I just basically picked this color to kind of match the pot. You can use any color, that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna plant it like this to be easier for me. So you don't wanna plant it too low, but you wanna plant it high enough so that you can see it. Okay, so add a little more soil. You might have to add a little more soil when you're planting it, so. Okay. And then what I do is then I add something in the center. And that will be like, that's my main plant for the center, like this. And if you find like, if the plant's too large, you can always trim some of the leaves, like this. So it doesn't hurt the plant. Like that. Okay. Add a little more soil. Okay. Just adjust it a little bit. Okay. Then, this one is, you might see this in a lot of the yards. It's called a blue chalk sticks. It's a good ground cover. It's very drought tolerant. And this is something I put in the back because it's going to grow tall. So I'm going to put that in a second here. Okay. So that goes in the back there. It's really pretty. It has like white flowers. Okay. Then another plant that I use is this one. It's called a golden globe. This one has like little yellow, orange flowers. I start off small because this gets kind of big, but in a container, they stay contained. They don't grow as fast. So I picked this for height, but also the color. So, okay. And succulents like to be crowded. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of plants in the container. If you can always adjust and take out the plants that you want, just depending on your needs. This one is a called a green rose, and they get about 8 inches high. But I'm just going to use 2 of these, and I put this right in the center here, kind of give it a little bit of a color. Okay, it's easier when I'm playing it like this. But I'll show you that. Okay, and this is an echeveria hybrid, and it stays that pink color. It has really tall pink flowers. Let's do this here. So you see how much soil I'm taking off to take, so it can fit into this pot, but there's still a lot of root here, like that. You can use some of that soil that you took out, put it back in here. It's still good. Okay, and this one here is called Echeveria nodulosa, or painted echeveria. It's very pretty. It has orange flowers. I just stick that in here. Can anyone see that? Okay. All right. This one is an echeveria as well. I use a lot of echeverias because we notice these are small and compact. They stay nice in a nice wide container. The one I put in the back is going to get taller, but I'm giving it enough room. So anything that's going to stay low, I put them in the front so you can see. All right. Now this one here is, you probably see this a lot. It's called donkey's tail. This is a hanging plant. It has pink flowers. And what I do in a lot of my gardens, I tend to put it at the edge because it's going to hang. So this is a good plant if you want something for hanging. And I'm going to stick this back here. Okay. So I'm just draping it on the side here. And this plant is very fragile. You've noticed a lot of the leaves are coming off. So what I do, instead of throwing these things away, I just stick it back in there. And that's going to grow. So this is one of these plants that falls apart easily. But they grow once, just by this little seed here, this little leaf here, sorry, that just goes back in there. Okay. All right. And one more soil. All right. Now I still have more room for the succulents. So what I'm going to add is what I call, this is what I use a lot. I use this, it's called a crashla, buttons on a string, and I use this as fillers. Like when you go to like a florist, they fill in with little flowers. This is what I use to fill in space. So like this here. So you can really put this anywhere.
Do those grow tall?
They get about 8 inches tall, yeah, and they hang. So I just stick it like this, in there like that. My little soil. Okay. So a little more soil in here. The soil is very dry, which is what I want. I don't want it too wet because wet soil is very hard for me to plant. So now, to some people, this looks very full. I can actually add more plants if I want to. It will accommodate, the pot is big enough and deep enough because I'm looking at the volume and the depth of the container, which is perfect for all these plants. So I can actually add more, which I could actually add another one of these if I want to make it more full. And all these succulents work really well together. Okay. So this is going to grow tall too, but it won't grow very fast. All right.
And as they grow taller and bigger, is the container still big enough for them?
It is still big enough for it, yes. You don't have to worry about transplanting for like at least another year. Yeah, and when it gets too big, you can always trim it in the container. This is going to get long, you can always trim it. So then, let's say this is a completed garden. So when I'm done, then I add top dressing, which is basically good for decoration, but it's also good for keeping the soil together when you water. So right now I'm going to just use black rock. You can use any color you want. Some people prefer not to put any rocks. They just want soil, but I prefer something because when you water it, all the soil is going to splatter out. So it's easier to put something, sand or anything, but you have to put something to keep everything together. So this is sort of the finished touch. When I put all the rocks, then you have a nice completed garden. Okay. And then just put rocks all around here. And then watering, I can water it now because the soil is dry and they're fully rooted. So you can water it when if someone bought this, you can water when you get home. So you have to put rocks inside here. Okay. Now, put more rocks behind here. And then you can just spray this a little bit to keep it together. So you have a nice little container garden here. Now, I'm going to show you basically, or talk to you a little more about the care, how to care for this, and any of these other gardens. The basic care for this, if someone wanted to make a garden and they wanted to figure where to put it, I would prefer this outside in a patio, in a filtered light, not indoors. This is not an indoor garden. This is something that you would put outside in a covered patio. Indoors, what happens is if you don't have the right lighting, these plants start getting really skinny and tall. And then without the right light, the plants won't grow. So if you don't have enough light or air inside the house, then these plants will not live very long, maybe 6 months. And then you have to take it outside, okay? So lighting is very important. I would put this outside in a filter light and then water once a week, okay? Something like this plant, for example, can be indoors. And you can put this on a shelf or something. But this needs more light, yes.
When you say water once a week, do you mean spray it or pour water?
Water, yeah. This one I was just showing you can freshen up a little bit. You want to freshen up. But water, like actually take some water and pour it in there around it. Yeah, and I water this once a week outside. Indoors, someone actually would want to put this indoors. You can put it indoors near a window, but you have to take it outside like once or twice a month for air. Yeah, air is the key thing. If you don't have air, these plants start getting really skinny and then the leaves start falling, so it's not very good. Now, in terms of fertilizing, I have brought 2 types of fertilizer because you do need to fertilize succulents. They do need food because they're living just like us, so they need fertilizer. But what we recommend, this is what I like because sometimes I don't have time to mix this every month with water. I use this. It's a granular fertilizer, and you do this according to the pot size, and you just sort of sprinkle it like that. And then that will dissolve right into the soil. You do this every 3 months. So nutrients are very important for the plants. So this one you do every 3 months during the growing season. This one you do once a month. And you mix this with water, okay? And
does our growing season match our seasons here, since these are imports?
yeah, these are all mainly from Mexico and the ones from like South Africa. But typically we fertilize during March through October. March to October. Yes, yeah, March, October. And then what else I want to mention is the watering. The key thing is, if you notice, someone always asks me, how do you know when you don't give enough water? When the leaves start getting really shriveled and they fall apart. The leaves start shriveling up, that means you have enough water. With cactus, the same thing. If this starts shriveling up, that means not enough water. But I always go through, this is my general rule of thumb, is always want to underwater and then overwater. Because when you overwater, you can't take the water out. It's easier to add water. So that's better for all these plants. Let me see, anything else besides light, watering, fertilizer? And then you got the soil. Do you have any questions?
What kind of fertilizer?
Oh, fertilizer. This is a slow release fertilizer that you mix into the soil. This one you do once every 3 months during the growing season. Yeah, and this one I said was once a month. Yeah, that's the fertilizer that we use. And this has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash. So this is very important for all the plants. And
So you would use those together?
no, I only use one or the other.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I prefer this one because it's easier because it's once every 3 months instead of having to mix with water. If you have a lot of plants like in the ground, it's easier to sprinkle it. But some people prefer this because they actually don't mind mixing it a teaspoon to a gallon with water. So, and
Where do you buy them?
this one we actually sell at a nursery. We can give we have bulk sizes as well. One thing I do want to mention is I didn't actually add pumice. Pumice is something that adds drainage and holds. It doesn't. When you water it, it's going to evaporate. So I didn't add pumice here because it had a hole. The only way I would add pumice is something like this on the bottom, because this will allow the water to evaporate and it won't hold in that extra moisture. So pumice is only if you don't have drainage, and drainage is very important for all these plants. So this is what I would add if I don't have drainage. That's called pumice.
Question on the pumice.
Yeah.
Does that fill the same function as perlite?
Yes, we actually have pumice and perlite mixed into our soil. But perlite's a little smaller. Yeah, the perlite's a little smaller. What else did I miss? Now, another thing someone always asks me is, what's the difference between a cacti and a succulent? Does anyone know the difference?
They're prickly.
They're prickly. They're nasty. They have spines. But always someone would ask me this. Well, I say, well, cacti have these little areoles. They have specialized areas which have the spines and the leaves and where the little baby cacti come out of. And succulents, they don't have that. They don't have these little areas where the spines come out of. They just have these leaves. And basically, the leaves is where they store the water. In the cactus, the water is stored in these little cells and in their roots. So that's one difference between a cactus and a succulent, besides not one has spines and the other one doesn't. So that's one of the common things people always ask me, what's the difference between a cactus and a succulent? Any other questions? Yes.
As I was coming over, there was a gardener at a house down the street. He was cutting out your root chalk.
Oh, blue chalk sticks? Yes.
And I was almost felt like stopping and getting a couple. Could I then root those and grow plants from those?
Yes. Yes. Let me show you a cutting that this is a fresh cutting. I don't have a blue chalk sticks here. But like, these are cuttings. They're fresh. So that the gardener gave you one of the cuttings. You can't plant it right away. You have to wait for it to callus on the bottom. and then you can plant it into a cactus mix.
How does it callus? Is it like rooting with
It
put
just
it in water or
dries outside. Yeah, you don't want to add water to it. You just want to lay it on a piece of paper like this, outside, not in full sun. And right now it's fresh, but will have a little dry skin on the bottom. And then you stick it right into the soil, not too deep, and don't water it right away. So this is something that you can take when we finish the talk. You can have one or two, and then you can take any varieties you want, and you can plant them preferably in a pot like this. A plastic pot is easy, and stick it right in there. Yeah.
And how long does it take to callus?
Usually a day.
Oh.
About a day, yeah. The ones that take a long time to callus is if I took a cutting like this and I cut it for you, the stem is too thick. The stem in here is a lot thinner, like this. See, the thinner stem is easier to dry.
And how long for them to root?
To root, it actually takes a couple weeks. Yeah, it takes a couple weeks, but you don't want to water it right away.
Right.
So, I don't know if I missed anything else. Oh, okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is some people always ask me what's a good indoor plant, because I've given you options for outdoors. So if you have a place inside, you can actually pick succulents that would do well indoors. I don't have any examples there. I should have showed you. Sansevierias and Haworthias. This is a Haworthia. This will be a family. It's called Haworthia. This would be okay indoors as long as you put it in your window, but it can survive longer than something like this. Another plant is this little plant here. Oh, I'll show you inside here. This one here is another Haworthia, which can do well indoors, but I mixed it with other succulents. This is one plant, it's called Haworthia, same this one. They can do well indoors. And other succulents that I don't have to show you, but that's another option. And another one is this one. If you really needed something for indoors, cacti actually survive longer than succulents. That's what I've heard, and that's what I've seen a lot, is they seem to last longer, but when they don't get enough sunlight, this will get skinny. So that's another option there. Okay. Is there any other questions? Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, on this one, which you said is best with filtered light, and
Filter light.
it wouldn't do well. For example, I've got a western exposure without shade, so would it do okay in afternoon sunlight?
It should be okay. It should be okay in western, but not the northern. Not a northern-facing window, but if you have a western-facing window.
Actually, it's outside.
Outside?
I've got it in my patio, but
Yeah.
there's no covering. So
Oh, no covering. If it gets full direct sun, then you have to add more water.
just the water.
Watering more, yeah. The only thing you might see, it might start burning a little bit, the leaves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they might burn a little bit because the only thing that's really drought tolerant and frost tolerant is this plant right here, the blue chalk sticks. That one is drought tolerant and more frost tolerant. But these are more fragile.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cacti can tolerate more direct sun?
They can tolerate more direct sun, and they can be indoors a little bit longer than succulents, but they also will get too skinny.
But the garden at the Huntington, let's say, that's in full sun.
That's in full sun, right? But I think there's some cacti that can take more full sun out there. I haven't been to Huntington Library in a long time, but some of the barrels and ferrocactus and
It's a
different type of variety that can take, and they have adapted to that environment where they can live out there in full sun. The roots are getting the water. This is more of a sort of a tamed kind of garden that I made from the nursery, which basically they are more fragile. Yeah, they won't be able to last that long in full sun. Especially this plant here, which I didn't really talk about. It's called the moon cactus. This will only last about maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah, its lifespan is about 3 or 4 years, but it's pretty. So yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. I live in the Northeast, so that wouldn't do for me. But what if they stay indoors under ideal conditions?
Mm-hmm.
And you put them outside in the summer. Would that do? Or
Yes, so during the wintertime you can bring it indoors.
yeah.
Yes, that's fine. And if you can't open the windows a little bit, and then when it gets warmer, take it outdoors. Yes.
Even at 5 below 0.
If it's now that one I would keep it indoors. I would keep it indoors. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but I could do it.
You could do it. Do you have any covered patio at all? It's covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still outdoors. It's still too cold. Yeah.
Oh no, it cannot live outdoors
No.
in the winter.
No, you have to bring it. Yeah.
Would these grow in a covered glass fish tank? with the cover allowing for condensation to water the plant.
So it's a fish tank. Is there any air?
With the lid closed.
Oh, lid. Yes, it can, but it won't last that long. It's something similar to this, right?
Yes,
But it's yes.
There's condensation that
Right.
waters the plant.
Right. I would just water it less, and it would be fine inside that glass container. And then you don't have drainage, right? So
Right.
you would add rocks or pumice.
The bottom.
That will help. Yes. I have people actually bring in their little glass fish tanks, and they want to plant something in it. So we've done that before for them, but they realize they might have to change the plant. They had to make replacements. So.
Yeah, with the succulents, the drainage is a big
Yeah.
problem. You don't have drainage, that's when they start getting overwatered.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff
true.
like that. And a lot of people bring them in overwatered, so.
Yeah.
Mm.
So actually, before we leave, I wanted to make sure that you pick out a free succulent cutting or two, and remember before you take it home, let it dry on a piece of paper or something, and then plant it in cactus mix. Don't use potting mix. Potting mix is really bad for succulents. They will rot and then eventually die. So that's why someone says to me, why go to Home Depot and I can get like $10 or 20 pounds worth of cactus mix. But they have peat moss in it, which is very acidic. So our mix is really good for all the succulents, and they'll live longer, okay? And you can pick up a care sheet and one of our cards and come visit us at our nursery.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.